Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to our pre-trip webinar for your upcoming live away to Bali, Indonesia. I'm very excited to be telling you a little bit about the preparations for this amazing trip. As many of you may recall, I was just in Bali over Christmas for a couple of weeks. I just love this island. It is truly a gem of culture and obviously beautiful, warm, tropical weather, which I know a lot of you will be looking forward to, having to endured the winter that has set upon pretty much all of Canada recently. So we're going to get started here in just a few seconds. I'm just going to wait for a few more members to join us, and we will start at 11 o'clock Eastern time. And I will tell you hopefully all of what you need to know about Bali so you can be prepared for this trip. So I see it's 11 o'clock. I'm sure a few more will join us over the next few minutes. So let's get started. And so today's agenda, of course, is first of all, I'm going to briefly introduce your hosts, talk a little bit about the preparation, what you need to know about coming to Bali, what you need to pack, your arrival procedures. And I'll touch on a few of the points in the itinerary and answer any questions that you have. So hopefully we'll be all and done in about 30 minutes. So you can go back and enjoy some Canadian winter, as it were. I would have loved to have introduced Amber in person and checked. She was due to be on the call today, but she actually just arrived here in Thailand and the jet lag got the better of her. So she sends her regrets. She just couldn't make it up to this hour to join us for the pre-trip webinar, but she is on this side of the world. Amber is an amazing person. She's hosted many of our trips and has been a close friend and confidant of mine for many, many years. And she also hosted the Bali trip last year, and so is very well acquainted with all of the arrangements we do, everything that's going to happen. So she is really the best possible person that you could have on your Bali trip. So again, but let me just say a couple of words about Amber's role for those of you who may not have participated in one of our Wheel and Anchor trips before. And in general, what are the role of our hosts? And so just a couple of points here. First and foremost, the host is there to ensure that you have an enjoyable, seamless experience. And that is their number one goal. And of course, the you know, they will, every host has a different personality. They bring a little bit something different to the table, and in terms of their personality, their hospitality, and so on. But it's important to remember that the host obviously will try to resolve any problems that may arise in travel. There's always problems. You can imagine some of the delays that some of our members who've had to fly out of Canada in the last couple of days have faced. They're there to ensure that the transfer, somebody's going to be there to meet you at the airport, and if you are delayed, and any other things that you won't even know about that come across. That come up during the course of an event. The host is also there to try to find out about anything's going on in the local community that you may be interested in attending. You know, events or special dinners or cultural activities, and to keep you apprised of that and to inspire you to really make the most out of your live away experience. So that is what the role of the host is. But at the same time, it's important to know what our host is not. And again, just to avoid any confusion amongst the team that is there to create the experience for you, a host is not a local guide. So the host is not the person who's going to give you any information about the history or where to go shopping, the best places, or any of that. They are not necessarily equipped with that information. Your local guide, and we have a few of them in Bali that you'll be meeting. Some of them on the very first day that you're there are the ones who have all of that local knowledge that you need to have. And again, the host is at the same time also not a personal concierge. They will do their best to direct you to the best place if there's something that you want to do during your free time, or if there's some event that you want to participate in that's outside the scope of what we do. They will try to point you in the right direction, but they can't actually make those arrangements for you because they've got to be there for the benefit of the rest of the group. So that's just a couple of the just to give you a sense of what your host role is. Amber will explain this again at the beginning of the trip. And again, if you've been on one of our trips before, you'll know exactly what they're there for and how they're going to make the most out of your experience in Bali. So let's move right on to your pre-trip preparation. And so by now we are a month away from the trip. And so what do you need to be getting ready and preparing and so on? First of all, of course, is to make sure you know where your passport is, double check the expiry date. We will have taken a look at those anyway, but it's always incumbent upon you, our members, to make sure that your documents are in order, that you know where everything is in order to be able to travel to Bali. And so, but other than having your passport and maybe a copy of your e-ticket or and copies of any other important documents that you have, you don't really need much for Bali. That is if you are staying on a 2 or a 4 week program. If you're staying in less than 30 days in Bali, you can obtain your so-called visa, your entry into Bali at the airport on arrival. If you're staying longer than 30 days, and I see a message from someone here who has applied for the 60-day visa, yeah, you do need to apply for that online. There is an e-visa protocol. It's optional if you're staying for the shorter period of time. It saves a little bit of time at the airport, but not really meaningful. So because you may spend more time struggling with the website. Not that it's that difficult. I was able to get through it myself, but I know that for not everybody is so comfortable with negotiating these things and the requirements. But generally speaking, you don't need a visa unless you're staying longer than 30 days. If you are staying 60 days, then you do need to use the e-visa website. If you have trouble with the website, give a call into the Indonesian embassy. It may require you being on hold for a little bit of time. We have generally not had any comments that there's been a problem. So I do see the comment here from Rita and Brian having some trouble with that. And it can be finicky, these websites, in terms of having the right picture size and so on. So if you do run into a problem, do try to give that embassy a call and or perhaps Google it. Yeah, it might take a couple of tries, but for most of our members, you won't be affected by that, and so hopefully that's not a problem. Then so that's all about the passport and documents. Let's talk about what to pack. So when you are getting ready for a tropical destination like this, you can pretty much leave all your winter clothes at home, because at no point on this trip is it going to get cool. There's only one exception, and that is for those of you who've signed up to go on the Mount Batur hiking excursion. And I went on this excursion when I was there just a couple of weeks ago. It's a marvelous hike up the mountain early in the morning for sunrise. It can be a little bit cool. When I say a little bit cool, I'm talking about, they say it goes as low as sort of 14, 15 degrees in the morning, which once you've walked up a mountain, then and you're sort of sweating, you can be it can feel cool when you've been exposed to temperatures in the high 20s and low 30s during the day. So apart from that, you really basically need sort of shorts and light sort of summer skirts and t-shirts and obviously swimwear and sun hat. You really don't need a lot for this trip. The only other thing else to keep in mind is that visiting temples in Bali requires that you have something to cover your knees, and for women, for your shoulders. So that's important. In a lot of cases, a sarong will suffice, and most of the temples, the larger ones, will have one that you can borrow on the way in. But I know for a lot of our members, they prefer to have their own clothing or their own stuff to cover themselves up when going inside a temple. So that's important to remember. Honestly, the order of the day for most of the trip will be very light footwear. So flip-flops is personally what I wear most of the time, because in some places you do have to remove your shoes, so you want something that's easy to get on and off. Uh, Keep in mind that this time of the year, basically all the way from sort of November through April, is what's called the rainy season or the wet season. That doesn't mean it's going to rain all the time. In fact, when I was there, as I say, at the end of December and beginning of January, we had maybe half an hour of rain a day at the most. It wasn't raining much at all. But you don't know, at this time of the year, it could be a little more frequent than that. So you'll probably want to have a waterproof, light jacket. Of course, you can buy ponchos there at pretty much any convenience stores, and they're ubiquitous throughout Bali. There's several within a short walk of the hotel. So that's, of course, an option. But if you've got, and now we wouldn't bring anything heavy because it's just going to be too hot. Because remember, even though it rains, a lot of people just like run around in a t-shirt, so I get wet. You're not going to get cold because I say the temperature is warm, but you will get wet. And so that's important to remember. I think that it's a great idea to have a light day pack because you're going to be out and about on these excursions. You'll want to take a water bottle, which we're going to provide you with. Actually, I brought the water bottles to Bali at Christmas time, so they're all sitting there waiting for you. Wonderful little wheel and anchor water bottles that are actually thermally protected, so the water stays actually cold for a good part of the day when you fill up your water bottle. So having a light day pack to take whatever you might want to have along with you, as well as any trinkets that you might pick up along the way. Bali is such an incredible shopping paradise that there'll probably be at least a couple of things that you'll want to tuck away and bring with you. Yeah, as I said, sun protection, that's really important. Hats, sunglasses, sunscreen. You'll find Bali is quite inexpensive for a lot of things, for eating out, for going for a massage. But certain things like pharmaceuticals and sunscreen is oddly quite expensive. So I generally recommend people bring it from home because you can pick up the brand that you like the most. And it really is important. I know I got a little too much sun on some days while I was there. Some other things to remember: to bring along a travel adapter. So you don't need a voltage converter anymore. Pretty much most of your devices will accept the 230 volts that you have in Bali because all these, like your cell phone chargers and your camera chargers and all this kind of stuff, all is dual voltage. So it takes 110 to 230. But it's a good idea to bring the European style of plug because some of the plugs in the newer places will accept North American style plugs, but some places will take only the two round pin plugs. So it's a good idea to have those, one or two of those with you. Please take your mobile phone. It's very important particularly for our LiveAway trips, and in the meantime for all our trips, because we will provide you a SIM card on this trip, and I'll talk about Telegram and using your phone in a minute. So it's important to take your phone. Double check if you're not sure that it is unlocked, which means that it's not, that you can't put a SIM card in from a different provider. Any phones that were bought in the last couple of years are all going to be unlocked because the CRTC required that the Canadian mobile providers cell phones unlocked. But that being said, we have had issues with people that use some carriers like Virgin with their phones being locked to that provider, and that's something you need to resolve before you leave Canada. So if you're not sure, call up your mobile phone provider and say, is my phone unlocked? Double check that. Please also remember to take any copies of your medications and prescriptions. In case something should happen, I do recommend that you bring those, any necessary prescriptions, in your carry-on luggage because you don't want to lose them. It's not so easy. You can fill most prescriptions in Indonesia, but it can be a bit of a hassle with the translation and just the availability and so on and so forth. So I do recommend that you bring the prescriptions in your carry-on luggage, but also bring a copy of it so that if you do need to replace it, it can be done relatively easily. My tips are Ziploc bags, particularly in a tropical wet environment like this, because you want to tuck your wallet in it, or you want to tuck your phone, or anything that you just want to keep dry in case there's a sudden rainstorm. And it does tend to happen that it's like sunny 1 minute and 5 minutes later, all of a sudden there's a downpour, and then it's over 10 minutes later. So I think Ziploc bags for me, I always take them with me because they're handy for keeping anything dry that you just need to keep dry. If you are someone who has a is using a CPAP machine or something of that nature, or anything that you need to keep close to the bed, the a little extension cord is always handy in case you need to have something that's should be here and yet the plug is over there, and that kind of thing. Doesn't really apply to most of our members. And the hotel rooms at the Maya are really lovely and modern, and they've got really all the amenities. So it's not such a big deal. But again, if there's some device that you need to have close to you, then that's just something to think about. And finally, a small collapsible umbrella. Again, it is rainy season. It may rain from time to time. So if you're somebody that just doesn't like to get wet, then a small collapsible umbrella is a good idea. So those are just a few of the things that you want to keep in mind. Let's move on and talk for a minute about currency and Wise. And I put the picture up here on the screen for Wise. In Indonesia, you are using the Indonesian rupiah. So it is one of those currencies where there's a lot of them. There's currently about 11,300 to the Canadian dollar. I just use the 10,000 to 1. So everything else is a bit of a bonus. So in other words, a 10,000 rupiah bill is equivalent to $1, believe it or not. And the bills, the largest denomination of bills is 100,000 rupiah. So that is basically $10. So you can imagine there's a lot of cash in Indonesia. So in many, many places, in cafes, restaurants, shops, not kiosks, not markets, you can pay with your credit card. And so that's very handy because you can pay just like at home by tapping it. It's safe. And that's certainly the easiest way to pay. However, some restaurants, smaller kiosks, or if you want to go and get a massage, and you will definitely ought to try that because there's so many massage places there. Many of them will not accept credit cards or debit cards, so you'll have to pay in cash. So you will need some cash, probably not a lot, but if you want to go and find a few things to buy, having $100 or $200 in cash, a million rupees is probably not a bad idea. Now, question came up here about Wise, why we recommend Wise. Wise is great because it is the biggest benefit for Wise, quite honestly, is the exchange rate, which is the most competitive exchange rate that I've found certainly of any bank in Canada, certainly of any credit card, and not to mention the exchange rate places, which typically charge 5% premium over the so-called median rate. So we use Wise for all of our transactions. All of our hosts carry Wise because it is the most cost-effective way. And also you can change from one currency to another, either proactively. So you can load your Wise card up. It acts like a prepaid debit or credit card. You load it up with, let's say, $500, and then you can pay with it just the same as you would pay with your Visa card by tapping it or by inserting it and putting in your PIN code. I personally don't even take the physical card with me because you can load it onto your phone as a digital card, just like you would your Visa or MasterCard from home, and you can pay with it electronically. And so it's very handy. And again, the exchange rate is what makes it a very, very compelling thing. And also the ease of converting from one currency to another. So, and if you use your Wise card in an ATM in Bali, the beauty of most ATMs in Bali is that they do not charge a service charge. So in Thailand, for example, here they charge $8 to $10 just to use the ATM to take out any amount of money. But in Bali, they're pretty much the ATM is free. Now your bank at home is going to charge you $5, $7, $10 for each withdrawal. If you use the Wise card, for example, the first $350 Canadian of withdrawals, if my memory is correct and that hasn't changed, is free. So that's another benefit to using the Wise card, is that you have $350 worth of withdrawals that don't cost you anything, just the exchange rate. The question here came up about if money exchangers in Bali will accept Canadian cash. They will. I don't recommend taking cash just because it is the poorest exchange rate that you're going to get, but it is certainly possible to use Canadian dollars. So don't go out and get US dollars, for example, and exchange twice. You're just basically paying the bank for the benefit of exchanging money. So you can take Canadian cash and it will be accepted by money exchangers if that is your preference. Yeah, I think that's all I needed to say about cash and money. But if you have another question, please put your questions in the Q&A box or in the chat box, and I will make sure I answer them by the time we get to the Q&A section at the end of the webinar. Talking about mobile phones and Telegram. This is really important particularly for our LiveAway programs, because we use Telegram as a way for the host to reach our members that are on the trip, as well as for our members to reach other by the groups that we set up. And so Telegram functions basically the same as any other messaging app. If you're used to using WhatsApp or Messenger by Facebook or iMessage on an iPhone, it is the same functionality. So if you join and set up Telegram before you leave Canada, and it's important that you do it before you leave Canada, first of all, because you'll get a chance to sort of get the functionality of it. And if you have any troubles in downloading it, I personally recommend going to a younger member of your family or a friend or somebody that you know, and they'll have it on your phone and installed in less than a minute, in case you struggle with that. But once you have it, somebody mentioned that the chat box is disabled for the call. I'm sorry about that. Let me see what happened. Okay, sorry, the chat box works now. My apologies for that. So thank you for thank you for pointing that out. It was somehow misconfigured when we got started. So you can now post in the chat box as well. So Telegram is important for that. Set it up. There's instructions that are provided in your pre-trip information document. You can also Google it. You can find YouTube videos. There's really lots of ways to know how to set it up. Once you've done that, the first thing to do is add Amber as your contact and send her a message and just say hi and say, hi, I'm so-and-so on the Bali trip. And then she'll send you a message saying hi back and put you into the group that will be set up so that you'll be able to communicate with the other members on the trip. And again, this is one of the big benefits, is that our members love to be able to talk to each other and say, hey, who's going out for dinner? Or I'm a solo traveler. I'm looking for somebody to go for a walk down the beach. It's really handy for that functionality. Not to mention, it also has location function on it, so that in the event you're out somewhere and you get lost or you have a problem, you can send your location to Amber, your host, or anyone else in the group, so that they can locate you using Google Maps. So really, really handy. It's a great tool. So please do download that before you leave Canada. Okay, I'm going to touch on health protocols for just a minute. Just a couple of things to mention here. First of all, of course, our trips are non-smoking. So, of course, that doesn't mean that if you're a smoker, you can't come along. Of course you can. But please refrain from smoking if you are a smoker during any Wheel and Anchor sanctioned events. So during any excursions or any of our group meals, or, anytime we're with other members, just out of respect for the other members in the group, they would appreciate that. I will say this about smoking. Bali, Indonesia is a country of smokers. So people will smoke there. And I've mentioned this in webinars on other trips, because in Canada, we're not used to it anymore, that, people might sit down at a table next to you and light up a cigarette, and you'll think, where is that smell coming from? But that is common. They don't generally smoke indoors in Indonesia, but you will find it. So be aware of that, and just accept that that's just the reality over there. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but it does occur. And not to mention that people from other countries are more prevalent smokers than we are in Canada. The other thing about health protocols is it's very important, particularly in this day and age now when, we're in the aftermath, or not in the aftermath, we're still in COVID and just another variant of COVID. Not to mention that at this time of the year, we have a lot of flus and colds and so on going around. If at some point you feel ill, if you have any symptoms, if you have cough or a sneeze or something like that, please let your host know, just so that we're aware. And when you're on an excursion around other group members, please do wear a mask. You'll find in Asia, they've been wearing masks when people are sick long before COVID ever came along. It's just a sign of respect, that if you're feeling a little bit sneezy or coughs, then just a respect for others to avoid inadvertently infecting anybody. So that would be much appreciated. So all that being said, you're ready to go to Bali, and you're all set to fly over. Keep an eye on your flights in the 24 hours before departure. Your airline, the airlines are pretty good at proactively advising you if there's going to be any delays. But if you expect a storm, which the last few days certainly is testament to that, then just keep an eye on that. If you find that you are going to be delayed, such that you will miss a connecting flight. So let's say you're flying from, Toronto to Taipei, or Toronto to Tokyo or Hong Kong, and then you're connecting down to Bali. If you expect that you're going to miss your connecting flight, so you won't be on the flight that you were scheduled to arrive in Bali on, then it's important that you send a message to your host, to Amber, using Telegram. That should be your first notification, and also to our delays email address, which is in your pre-trip information document, delays@wheelandanchor.ca. This will ensure that our team is aware, you're going to be late, and we can notify the transfer company that you won't be on that flight. And then when you do know when you're going to arrive, then you can let us know. If your flight's going to be late, but you were supposed to be on that flight, obviously our transfer drivers are monitoring those flights. So that's fine. You don't have to let us know about that. We will know if your flight is late. But if you're not going to be on that flight, that's when it's important to let us know. And getting ready for the flight, it's a long trip over here. There's no two ways about it. We know that. Just get prepared for it. Wear something comfortable to try and get some sleep, and hydrate yourself. Really important for particularly for these long flights. I also recommend using an app if you want to avoid the jet lag, or at least mitigate it as much as possible. We suggest timeshifter.com. This is an app that particularly Amber is the one that originally discovered it, and she uses it religiously on all of her overseas travel, and says it makes a huge difference in adjusting to the local time zone. So keep that in mind. And again, all this is in your pre-trip information document. Once you arrive into Bali, you'll go through immigration, you'll go through customs, and then you'll come out, and there'll be a big hall full of people, drivers and airport representatives meeting other people. So just look for your name on a sign, or for the Wheel and Anchor logo. Our reps there have been very reliable. We haven't missed anybody yet, but please be patient. It could be very busy depending on exactly when your flight arrives. Sometimes 3 or 4 large planes arrive at the same time, and the place can be a little bit chaotic, but do look for them. There is Wi-Fi in the Bali airport. So if for some reason you do have a problem, you can send a Telegram message to Amber saying, hey, I can't find my transfer driver. Or you can get in touch with, we provide a phone number for our local transfer operator. But Amber will be on the ground in Bali ahead of you, unless you're arriving well in advance of the start date. And so she will, she'll be there to facilitate any issues. I see a question here. Please tell us where to find flight delay notification in Wheel and Anchor site. No, it's not on our website. If you look in the pre-trip information documents, you will see the email delays@wheelandanchor.ca. So it's an email that you send. It's not on our website. It is in the documentation that was sent over to you. And if you have any question about finding that in the document, then you can drop a note to your trip specialist and they will help you find it. But it is in that document, delays@wheelandanchor.ca. I'll put it in the chat box as well here, just so that you can all see it. Just put it in here. delays@wheelandanchor.ca. So that's the email address. If you get delayed, I put it in the chat box. Have a look for it there. Good. And so just a brief overview of the trip and what to expect. As I say, you're going to arrive in to the Bali International Airport here, which is down here in, and it's called the Ngurah Rai Airport, which is down here in the very south part of the island. And then you're going to get picked up and drive up here to Sanur, which doesn't look like it's very far, and it isn't. But the traffic in Bali can be, particularly in the south part of the island, so in this whole area here, can be quite busy. And so, oops, sorry, we slipped back a slide. And so this drive here will take anywhere from about 40 minutes to, worst case, about an hour to get up to Sanur. So, patience is the order of the day when you arrive in. We know you're tired, and it's a long trip, but once you get to the hotel, you'll be welcomed by Amber and the staff there, and you're going to be just in love with the place. It's really, really a lovely spot, and it's a lovely town that is on the west coast, east coast of the island here. During your time here, there's a number of excursions that you will have signed up for. They're going to take you to different spots around the island, to temples like Tanah Lot and the Besiki Mother Temple, as well as up to the Jatulawi rice terraces, a beautiful part of the island. So all over the island. Just to give you, just to advise you in advance, again, the traffic in Bali can be quite bad. Anywhere sort of south of Ubud, in the sort of Denpasar area, which is the built-up part of Bali here. So patience is really important, because it can take an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, to get to a place that might only be 30 or 40 kilometers away, because the roads are a little bit narrow, and it's quite busy. But there's lots to see, because one of the things I love about Bali is the fact that, like, every house, every residential house in a community is like a temple. They're beautiful. The architecture is amazing. So if you just watch the world go by, it's quite an amazing experience. And we're going to do our best to ensure that every excursion is as smooth and as timely as possible, given all the circumstances there. So again, noting some of the things in the itinerary, this is a little aerial view of your hotel here, the Maya in Sanur. In a terrific location with a beautiful pool looking out over onto this body of water that separates Bali and the island of Lombok. You've got a restaurant there where you'll have breakfast and any other meals that you choose to have, and a bar right out here by the beach. There's a wonderful spa. The one thing I'll say about Bali and Sanur, spas are ubiquitous. So you can go for a massage for as little as about $8 at a more modest places outside the hotel, or you can go to a fancier spa like the one that's in the hotel, and it's a higher price but in a more sort of serene environment. I recommend trying everything out, because it's all part of the experience of being in Bali. And the rooms here, you get a taste of them. They all have huge windows looking out. It's all green outside, and very, very comfortable. We had a lot of positive comments about that. One thing I'm going to mention for those of you who are booked in the second 2 weeks of Bali, on the third last day of the trip on March the 11th, they're going to be celebrating the holy day of silence called Nyepi. And so that day is a sacred day in the Hindu religion in Bali, and it's a day of absolute silence. So what it means on this day, and it's going to be something very unique and very special, because basically the island stops. No businesses are open, no schools, nothing. Everything is completely closed. And in fact, people are requested not to go outside, because it's a day of meditation. You can obviously stay around the hotel, and there'll be a number of festivals and so on leading up to the day. So the preparations for Nyepi are really quite remarkable. There's parades, There's all kinds of things, and you're going to get an orientation of this by Amber, your host, as well as your guides and the folks from the hotel, exactly what Niepi is all about. So whatever you do, if you're planning to do something in Bali, don't plan to do it on March the 11th because nothing will move. But as I say, it's a pretty special time to be there. And so we're delighted that we're going to be there for Niepi this year. Those of you that are in the second group, the second 2 weeks. You will have selected all your excursions and had them confirmed by now. And so whatever's been confirmed at this point is pretty much set in stone. So we can't make changes just because we've already booked all of the transportation and our guides and everything else. And so if there's something that you see that you would like to join, subject to availability, you'd have to speak with the local host about that one. It's possible that we may be able to fit you on a trip that you didn't already book. We're going to be visiting the area around Kintamani, which has beautiful views looking up to Mount Batur, which you see here, one of the second highest volcano on Bali. We're going to be actually having the opportunity to hike up Mount Batur or go up by Jeep. So there's two options there. And either way, you get an incredible view over the sun rising over in the direction of Lombok and Mount Rinjani, which is the highest mountain on Lombok, and looking at Mount Agung, which is the highest volcano on Bali. It's an incredible thing. The hike is about an hour and 15 minutes in duration, and it starts really early in the morning. But I'll tell you, the view from up there is absolutely worth it. Obviously, you can't avoid Balinese cooking. Personally, I love it. All the different dishes they have, like gado-gado and rendang and nasi goreng. So many. Indonesian cuisine is almost as diverse as Thai cuisine. And taking a cooking class to take some of that knowledge back with you is going to be a great thing to do. One of the favorite activities last year was going to a neighboring resort and enjoying a so-called Sunday lazy brunch, which has cocktails and more food than you can possibly imagine. It's a great way to spend a good chunk of the day having a lazy and somewhat boozy brunch for those that like that. Of course, Bali is known for its rice terraces. You're going to get up to Bretan Lake and the Jatiluwi rice terraces. This is not the only place in Bali to see rice terraces. There are other locations as well around the island, but these are some of the most picturesque ones, which is why we do an excursion specifically out there. Tanah Lot is one of the many temples. You're going to see a lot of temples, but there's some that are really special. And Tanah Lot is one in particular because it's on this island. You can see how it is separated during high tide from the mainland by the sea. So it's a very special place. And it's across on the southwestern part of the island. So you pass through Denpasar on the way to get there. One of my favorite temples, though, the Besaki Mother Temple, is one of the holiest temples in Bali, which is up to the southwest of, the southeast of Mount Batur. So this is a great excursion. And the city of Ubud, this is actually the area that I just spent Christmas, which I really love. It's where the Royal Palace is located, as well as a number of other. It's the center of culture, really, in Bali. So it's a special place. And even if you don't participate in one of the excursions there, you might want to consider taking a taxi, going up for the day, and just wandering around. They also have some incredible shopping, crafts. It's a very special place on the island. And a popular thing to do as well is to head to that peninsula, which I showed you on the bottom of the map to the south of the airport. This is the part of the island called Uluwatu and has some of the best sunsets because you have these very high cliffs overlooking the ocean, looking out to Nusa Penida, as well as out to the west side of the island. So this is a lovely and a popular excursion. You can also e-bike around Ubud, which Ubud is in the hillside of the volcano, so it's on the way up to Mount Batur. And so it's interesting because going out of Ubud as you go to the north, it's gradually rising up, and then when you're on your way back down, you're basically not using any energy at all because all the hills run downtown. It's really quite neat. Bali is known for its batik, so we also have a workshop where you can actually learn how to make your own batik. This is a lot of fun, these hands-on type craft workshops. And there's a couple of boat trips here as well, one of them being Nusa Penida, which was also very popular from our members. Nusa Penida is an island in the direction of Lombok, just to the west of Bali, that you can visit, and it's about a half an hour boat trip, and see some of the spectacular coastal seascapes that exist on the island there. And finally, and I believe this program is already sold out for those of you who have not joined up, but we offered an extension to Komodo Island to see the famous Komodo dragons. This is obviously a World Heritage Site. These are the largest reptiles in the world. Really, really amazing. And for those of you that are going off to Komodo Island, you will be heading out on the last day of the trip, together with all of those who are going, flying over to the airport that is in the Komodo Island National Park. Then you'll be transferred to a hotel for your accommodation there. You'll have 2 full-day trips from this very lovely hotel out to visit the dragons in a couple of different locations. And I think it'll be certainly a memorable experience. So at this point, I've done all the talking, but if you have any questions at all that I haven't already answered, let me have a look at the Q&A box and see if there's anything missing here. Okay, so we talked about that. Yeah, just to reiterate again about the weather, it's going to be warm, so keep that in mind. So, whatever you can imagine on the hottest of summer days, that's pretty much what the weather is like in Bali a lot of the time. But it's great that you're going in this time of the year, because it does rain from time to time, and that makes a huge difference in the temperature. So I think it's the perfect time of the year to go. As I say, I just returned a couple of weeks ago, and it just solidified my love of this amazing island. Good. Let's see. I understand Wise Card is prepaid. Do we load it with Canadian dollars? Yeah, exactly. The Wise Card is essentially like a prepaid credit or debit card. So you use Interac e-transfer is usually the easiest. You load it up with Canadian dollars, and then you can transfer those Canadian dollars into 50, I think it's 52 different currencies. You don't have to. Most people just leave their balance on the card in Canadian dollars, and as soon as you tap it, or as soon as you use an ATM, it will automatically convert at the best exchange rate. And believe me, I have tried this out. I use the Wise Card religiously when I'm traveling, because you are at least 3% better than any credit card that I've used in Canada. That being said, some of the Canadian banks have special foreign currency cards that they claim have better rates, but personally, I haven't found anything better than Wise. So yeah, keep that in mind. And Janet comments that the hotel address in Sanur is incorrect in the pre-trip pamphlet. Okay, I'm not aware of that, but thank you for bringing that to our attention. I'll have our team address that. It is the Maya Sanur. There is only one. But we will correct any mistake that might be there on that document. So Janet, thank you for bringing that to my attention. Let's see. Nancy asks, is the yacht to Nusa Penida only available in March? No, the ferries to Nusa Penida go all the time. So they're running in February and March. As long as enough people, we hire a private boat for that trip. So as long as enough people sign up for that, then that excursion will take place. But of course, if not enough people sign up for it, then there is still the option to go on a public boat trip over there. Those are definitely available, but yeah, and I'm not sure 100% the status, but if it should be in your confirmation documents. And again, if there's a question about that, then info sheet says March. Nancy, I'll have somebody get back to you on that, either Paula or Barb, because I'm not fully aware as to it should be anytime, but we'll get back to you on that. So thank you for that question. Let's see. Okay. Oh, and then how much is a moderately priced dinner per person in Bali without alcohol? So if you go to a local restaurant, like a Balinese type restaurant, and sort of anywhere, you could expect that, let's put it this way, you could go out for dinner, and I don't think you'd be able to eat $20 worth of food. If you're talking about eating sort of local cuisine, modest cuisine, it's probably $10 to $20 per person Canadian, without alcohol. Alcohol is expensive, so because it's obviously Indonesia, which, Bali is Hindu, Indonesia is of course predominantly Muslim, but alcohol is taxed. The import tax is very high, so you'll find that beer is palatable in terms of cost. It's similar to at home, maybe a little bit less expensive. Wine is quite expensive, for example, as are imported cocktails. But food is quite inexpensive. Even nicer restaurants will be significantly less expensive than at home. So you could go out for, I went out for like a Christmas 4-course buffet at a 5-star hotel, and I think it was $50 per person Canadian. So that's what you're talking. It's very reasonable in comparison to at home. Tim said, for excursion to the low uptake like Mount Batur, we'll be joining others from other groups. There is the opportunity. There are numerous tours that can be offered. So if you if one of our trips cannot go because we don't have enough for a private excursion, then certainly with the assistance of the hotel and our local guides, I'm sure they can get you set up to ensure that you can join on another group. So and there's, listen, we offer a number of different trips, as I've just summarized. There are 100 more things that you could do on the island. And so obviously Amber's going to be there to point you, and together also with our local tour partners, we want to make sure that you have the Bali experience that you want. So we're going to make that possible for you. So we will point you in the right direction for that. And there's not really any need to pre-book it because these tours run all the time. So not to worry. There is one other thing. We do have a local car and driver, a lovely Indonesian chap named Buddy. Amber will tell you about him when you get to Bali. So if you'd like to get a car and driver for the day, if it's 2 of you or 4 of you, he has a small little, relatively comfortable little van. And it's very reasonable. You can literally rent him for the whole day for less than $100. So it's quite a reasonable way to sort of tour around the island. So Amber will fill you in on that when you're there. So keep that in mind in case you want to go on a shopping trip or some other place that is outside the scope of what we offer. Okay. And another comment here about difficulties with e-visas. I will have my team look into it. We hadn't heard about any problems with the system, but we will take a look and see if there's any problem. And if there's anything that we can advise you on in that regard, we will send a memo out to the whole group. Good. I think I've answered all the questions. Okay. Of course, if you do have any other questions, we're still here for you. We're not going anywhere. So drop a note to the trip specialist that signed you up for the trip, Paula or Barb, and they will pass the question on, make sure that the right person from our team or from our local partners in Bali answers it so that you will be well prepared for your trip. So thank you for joining me on the webinar. There will be a replay of this that's available to you, and we'll update that on the pre-trip information document, as well as any other information that may have been missing or slightly incorrect. So my apologies if there was anything like that, but we will get that updated for you so that it will be in the live document that you can access. I wish you a wonderful trip to Bali. Again, the feedback we had last year was really phenomenal. I'm sure it'll be at least as good of a trip this year. As I say, if you have any questions, let us know. I look forward to hearing your feedback from Bali. I hope you have a terrific time and a safe trip, and we'll catch you all again very, very soon. Take care. Have yourselves a great evening. Bye-bye.